Hi, my name's Teresa Miller, and I'm a Principal Technologist with the Technology Advocacy Group at Cohesity. Today we're going to talk about how you can protect your Azure Stack deployment and virtual machines that you've deployed into Azure Stack with Cohesity. Before we take a look at how Cohesity protects that, we're going to just take a look at a couple different things from the Azure Stack side to help create some context. So the first thing we're going to do is head over into our Azure Stack Administration Console. In the Administration Console, you get a great summary of your environment. This is where you've done all your configuration, but you are going to have to protect the data that you have here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you Microsoft has a really great option in Infrastructure Backup. In Infrastructure Backup, you can configure the Azure Stack deployment data to be able to be backed up to a storage location. Now, of course, you can leverage a Microsoft storage location and then fill in the rest of this information. But with Cohesity, we have the ability to set up an SMB share right on the Cohesity that allows you to protect that deployment data configuration right within Cohesity as well. So I will show you how to do that. We leverage something called views. And then once you have your view created, you'll set your backup storage location with the SMB share right off the Cohesity. So that's the first piece. The second piece is once you have your Azure Stack deployment completely configured, you're going to start deploying virtual machines to it. So what I have here is just a list of virtual machines that have been created so that we can essentially show you how we protect that on the Cohesity side. So first things first, let's talk about how to get that SMB share created so that you can save your infrastructure backups right over to a Cohesity view and protect those. So the first thing that you would need to do is go to File Services, and then you go to Views. And in Views, you can see I actually have a view created. If I hadn't created a view, I would just go up to Create View, but let's go ahead and edit. So I have a view name, and here really is the critical element. We have the ability to choose SMB share only. So essentially, I walk through these steps and save the view, and I now have a file share right on the Cohesity. Once you are done with that, then you can go back over to Azure Stack and configure your jobs to run over to Cohesity. Now, fantastic, you're using Cohesity as a file share, but you should still protect that file share. So let's take a look at that. We're going to go over into Data Protection and Protection. In here, I have a job in place for the Azure Stack infrastructure. When I set up this job, all I did was set some of the following options. Let's take a closer look. So I told it that I wanted to protect this particular view. That should look familiar. It's the AZS infrastructure. And I gave it a name, and I set up my policy. So I'm just using the development daily policy, backing it up every day and retaining for 4 days. You can configure this to whatever SLA you need. And then also keep in mind there are some additional settings below with potential end dates, start times, if you're going to do any indexing, etc. So that is it. Those few simple steps will get you protecting that configuration within your Azure Stack deployment. Now the other piece to this would be your actual machines that you've deployed into Azure Stack. Let's talk about how to protect those. The first thing you would need to do is register your Azure Stack systems right within the sources. So here I have a couple of them. I have a Windows 2016 machine in Azure Stack, a SQL server, and another SQL server. So once those sources are registered, then I go out to Protection Jobs, and I'm going to go ahead and focus more on the SQL for this. I have a SQL backup job, and I'm going to go ahead and edit. And within here, we can see I have the SQL backups. I have one of my SQL servers being protected. I'm leveraging a SQL backup policy, backing up that machine every hour and retaining for 3 days. And I also get some advanced settings that I can put in place for this particular backup, including things like an end date, indexing, etc. I'm going to go ahead and cancel. And there's one other thing I want to show you. I do have a protection job here with Windows VMs. If I go ahead and go into this protection job, what I'd like to show you is that you can actually be archiving these machines to another location as well, and that could be Azure. So let's take a closer look here. So I have a physical server. Let's go ahead and click Edit. So I'm backing up that Windows 2016 server. Go ahead and cancel for now. And I have a production group name. I have a protection policy, but I've added that I'd like to keep a copy of this particular server over in Azure on some hot storage because it's a very important server and I'm going to need to be able to recover it. The other thing that I have here are the ability to set some additional settings. These additional settings are things like the end date, indexing, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and click cancel. And so how do I know that the archiving is working? Well, if you come over here and we follow this over to the right, that's what this is. If we take a look, we can see we're archiving this particular system over to some Azure hot storage. So we have the ability to protect your Azure Stack environment from the configuration data all the way to the systems you deploy.